Well, at least the performance was a little bit better, right? Mexico won, Ecuador won. I don't think anybody's furious right now. I mean, let me know below if you're mad, if you were expecting a 3-0 victory from Mexico. I would call you delusional, but please share your thoughts down below in the comments. I think especially after the Colombia game, this feels a bit more palatable. This feels a bit more easy to digest, and I think the performance was better than against Colombia. There are some circumstances for that, of course, but in this video, I'm just going to go through my takeaways from the game, and I think it was pretty chaotic overall, and honestly, I think it's best summarized by this hilarious meme that I found online. I'll throw that on the screen now. I mean, this really, honestly, I could end the video here. No, I'm going to keep going, and for any Ecuadorians watching, I will briefly discuss your national team at the end, because I feel like something dark is brewing in the shadows of Quito, in the shadows of Guayaquil, and this might need a future video. So if you want to see that, if you want to see more videos about the Mexican national team in English, make sure you are subscribed. I'm sitting here now feeling like this was an okay result. I certainly do not think it washes away the sin of the Colombia game, certainly the Colombia score, and it doesn't really help Mexico's record against South American teams lately. Yes, we didn't lose. Yes, we were the better team. It's still another game without a win against a serious South American side. And we're not going to see unserious South American teams at the World Cup, so I'm still a little bit concerned. I will reiterate, though, I do think Mexico were the better side. I don't think Ecuador were terrible, but they were certainly more vulnerable both against the United States and Mexico than what I was expecting. Is that because Moises Caicedo wasn't there? Is that because Becasese is a fraud? Tune into next week's episode of Dragon Ball Z. We'll talk about it then. Some positives for Mexico, because there are some positives. Julian Quiñones, I think, had a very good match here, especially in the press. And that has me very curious what's going to happen when Raul Jimenez comes back. And you guys let me know down below in the comments what you felt about Quiñones' performance and if you think it deserved more minutes. And if you think it deserved more minutes, how do we give him more minutes? Do you play him alongside Raul? Do you play him as a winger? And does that mean Alexis Vega's relegated to the bench? I don't know what this looks like, because I don't think Mexico can have the most effective version of a press if Raul Jimenez is in the team. I just don't think he has the legs for it. So it's kind of like a conundrum that I don't really know what Aguirre is going to do about this when Raul comes back. Quiñones did look more impactful than both Alexis Vega and Piojo, I would say, in recent times for Mexico. And looking more impactful than Piojo is basically the easiest thing possible. You just have to create one chance per game, and you're already clear of anything he's done with the national team in the last year. So I think it was stock up for Quiñones, but he still didn't score. And he had a really good opportunity to score. And his record of goal scoring with the Mexican national team continues to be pretty poor. And I'm going to touch on this a little bit more later. Mateo Chavez, I think it was another good showing from him. Was he the runaway man of the match? I don't really know if I would say that. I saw that circulating online. Sometimes I think we just get too in love with next up Mexican talents and we just crown them as, beasts before they're actually ready for that. I do think he did decent against John Yeboah, but Yeboah beat him a couple times, as he should. He's a very good player. But I don't think that enough happened in this game for Aguirre, here's the bad news again, to replace Gallardo fully. I still think that he's going to look at this and be like, yeah, Mateo Chavez, good substitution piece, but Gallardo's my guy. That's kind of my fear. And I don't know what's going to fully convince Aguirre to change his mind, but I don't think this match was it. Next up, good news, Luis Romo probably will never start again because he had yet another beautiful, impeccable, trademark horror back pass, horror mistake that led to a penalty and led to Ecuador's goal. And I felt like the blogs, and I feel like a rapper or something who's mad at his album reviews when I say that, the blogs, I feel like they were way too critical of Rangel in that decision and not the fact that Luis Romo basically set him up to be killed. Sure, maybe Rangel could have handled the back pass a little bit better, but you know what would be even better than the goalkeeper not making that mistake? Is our defensive midfielder not basically gifting Ecuador a free shot on goal. How about that? I think I would rather have that not happen. Instead of blaming Rangel and just saying, he's terrible, which I don't rate him, let's be fair and objective in this scenario and say, this was probably 95% Luis Romo's fault, and this is Luis Romo. I mean, this is the history of Luis Romo. If I'm going to steal a quote from Chiellini, we have actually seen this, and I'm not kidding, 15 times With the national team, he's good for a horror mistake every 90 minutes. Maybe every lunar eclipse or something. He's good for a positive moment with the national team. But most of the time, he's just very average and then makes a terrible mistake. Hopefully, as a result of this own goal, his limits are either 0 or they're very limited. And before you say I'm unfair, Luis Romo is a player who has gotten more chances and more opportunity than many others. He's certainly got more opportunities than some of the Mexican midfielders that maybe got a couple tries at it and we never saw them again. Somebody like a Sebastian Cordova, somebody like a Jordi Cortizo, who got thrown out there for a couple scrub minutes, maybe didn't have the impact that they needed to, and they were banished to the shadow realm. So Luis Romo, guys like Charlie Rodriguez, it's not unfair. You're not a bully to say, hey man, we've given you an opportunity. We've given you a lot of opportunity. We've given you combined 100 opportunities, and you failed. And it's time now to move on. I mean, imagine if you were dating somebody and your girlfriend, you had to tell her 100 different times to stop flirting with other men in front of you. 100 different times. At some point, if I'm your friend, well before we reach number 100, I'm gonna say, hey man, I don't think this is the one. I don't think this is a girl you should be with because she keeps on spitting game to the guy at the bar who's buying her drinks again. And it's the same thing that happened last weekend. I think you should move on. I think that's the same situation with Luis Romo here. I think it's time to move on. I think it's time to read the signs. Otherwise, we're just buffoons, all of us. And the last positive, and this one's a bit more serious, is that I do believe Mexico were the better team. And even though Ecuador were missing some players, I think it was vitally important to have a better performance in a rebound game, especially with this game in Mexico. I think if Ecuador win this game after the States got a draw, that would have looked really, really bad. And it's just, further down the dungeons of hell. The negatives for Mexico, biggest one for me is that we are still 100% reliant on Raul Jimenez for goals. I mean, if you watch the game in the first 15 minutes, Mexico should have had 3 goals. Chucky Lozano should have scored. Quiñones should have scored. Eric Sanchez should have scored in the first half. Marcel Ruiz should have scored the winner late in the second half. Great ball from Santi Jimenez, by the way, to set him up. That was a really good contribution. But, we didn't because there's no goal scoring in this team. I mean, everybody scores for their club, but when they come to the Mexican national team, Chucky can't score. Quiñones forgets how to shoot. Vega, forget about it. It's just, It's not good. I'm not even kidding when I say that Edson Alvarez is a top 3 goal-scoring threat for the Mexican national team because he scores so many set pieces. While that's great for Edson, your CDM should not be a top 3 goal scorer for any team. I mean, maybe Spain with Rodri. I don't know, but that man's built different. Aguirre did have a bit of an eyebrow raiser about this after the game. He said, no tengo dudas con la delantera. I don't have any doubts with the forwards. No tengo problemas en esa posición. There are no problems with this position. This is honestly just false. I mean, no, we do have problems with the forwards. I think he's saying this because of the defensive contributions of the front line, which is well and dandy, Mr. Aguirre, but we need goals. And in terms of goals, it is a problem. And Berterame, getting the goal, is that a stock up for him? I'm going to be a hater, and I'm going to say hell freaking no. There is no stock up for him. That was a terrible mistake from the Ecuadorian backline. Anybody should be scoring that goal. Sure, he pressed. Great. Does that mean he should get an extra 45 minutes next time Mexico play? Again, the answer is no. It was a great poaching goal off a terrible William Pacho mistake. Excellent. This doesn't mean that you just moved up the depth chart, though. For Ecuador, this was not a great window. I don't think it was disastrous getting a 1-1 draw against the States and then the same scoreline against Mexico, both games being away. I don't think this was a disaster class, but this is a team, right or wrong, that is being picked as the dark horse of the next World Cup. And that is mainly on the back of their defensive record. And that defensive record didn't really show up in this window. I mean, they were very, very lucky to concede only 2 goals across these 2 games. You could maybe counter me by saying, well, if we don't mess up in the back, then Mexico doesn't score. If we don't mess up in the back, then the States don't score. Valid. But I still think if you look at all the chances conceded, Ecuador got out of here looking pretty good with only 2 goals conceded. And this is a team that I don't even think is a great defense. I think it's the best defense in world football. And I know Moises Caicedo's gone. And I know there was, Incampié wasn't there. And I know there were other players that were in and out of the lineup. But you don't want to see the identity of the team wane so much when one or two guys are out. Because at the World Cup, we don't know who's going to be available for Ecuador. So if you're 100% reliant on the 11 best players available for all 3 group stage games, and if one or two guys goes out, you guys collapse, that's not good. And I'm not saying Ecuador collapsed. They didn't collapse in this game. But they looked pretty defensively open. They could not play out from the back to save their lives. They were terrible against Mexico. I was honestly stunned. And these are really, really good players. William Bacho, Champions League winner, is responsible for both of the goals that were conceded this window. I mean, that is, if you're Ecuadorian, you're praying that he just, I don't know, he was just in mala vibra, he was not feeling himself, he didn't sleep well, and that we're never going to see this again. The worst case scenario is Becasese tactically is asking this team to do something that they're not good at, and it's going to cost them at a World Cup. Because if Mexico and the United States are good enough to capitalize on mistakes, what do you think the elite of world football is going to do? And I think Becasese is a favorite for a manager to be sacked before the World Cup happens. And some people might think that's ludicrous, again, because of the qualifying record. And I understand that. But a lot of Ecuadorians feel like this guy is not qualified to lead the team. They feel like this is a team full of European stars, and this is a dude who's kind of been passed around South American domestic football. Sound familiar? This is the exact same thing that people were saying about Dorival when he was in charge of Brazil. He's not qualified, no pun intended, to manage the team. Again, this is something I might make a future video on, but I think I'm going to end the video there. Overall, Ecuador, was it an embarrassing North American tour? No, but this was not a win. This was not a win at all, again, for a team that should be aiming for like a quarterfinals at the World Cup. Mexico get out of here against Ecuador with the 1 point. I think it's very important to avoid consecutive defeats. Yes, a win would have been much better. Yes, a win would have me feeling better about the situation right now. But it is what it is. I will take the positive performance for what the performance was. You guys let me know the biggest takeaway down below in the comments. Again, if you want to see more videos about the Mexican national team in English, including, previews for the next November window, make sure you are subscribed. Smash the like button if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.